let's get started. Ryan, Tina, happy to have you here today. I'd love to start by just hearing an introduction for yourselves and what you do at your company. So Tina, love to start with you.
Well, hi, I'm Tina McGuire, and I am the general manager for one of the NUSO partners, Mastor. And Mastor, I've been with Mastor for about 3 years now, and I'm so happy that you guys are doing these partner spotlights and happy to be a part of this. So
I'm Ryan Henley. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at NUSO. For those of you who don't know, NUSO is a cloud communications provider. We provide services to mainly small and mid-sized businesses in the U.S. and Canada, or primarily in the U.S. and Canada. We've recently purchased some capabilities in the United Kingdom as well, and some contact center and call recording capabilities from a company in the EU. So we're excited to be here, excited to continue to expand our portfolio and serve wonderful folks like Mastor. Thanks, Tina.
Wonderful. Tina, I'd love to just dive right in and learn a little bit more about Mastor. So can you tell me about the company, its history, your products, and then ultimately how you serve your customers?
Sure. So Mastor has been in existence since 1991, so we're well over 30 years old, which is a long time in our industry. Started out as a pure telecom company, and as a matter of fact, selling, for the most part, a lot of refurbished telephone equipment, and it was also a big distributor for the Toshiba line of products, which doesn't exist anymore. So as you can imagine, over those 33 years now, we have really evolved. And currently, our product portfolio is based a lot on cloud communications platforms, video surveillance equipment, voice and data cabling, structured cabling projects, some IT services through various partnerships that we've discovered, as well as some bringing connectivity to the marketplace, fiber circuits and so forth. So full complement of products, really focused in the cloud communication space.
Yeah, fantastic. 31 years, 33 years? It's
33 years, yeah, 1991, so 33 years.
Incredible.
Yeah. And I'm only 34, so it's kind of an amazing.
I mean, yeah, that's you've grown it remarkably well for a 1-year-old. I can only imagine the amount of change that you guys have seen over that period of time. It's got to be just amazing to continue to be excelling in this space. That's fantastic.
Yes. Well, Mastor was actually founded by my father years and years ago. I did not work for the company until about 3 years ago, but I was in the telecom space as well. And we'll get into that story in just a little bit because it brings a unique set of advantages to our customer base. But I grew up around telecom when I was a young kid, but I personally have been in telecom in various different roles with different companies other than my father's company for 27, 28 years now. So long time. I've seen a lot.
You have such an interesting array of cloud comm services. What always catches my attention is video surveillance. How do your users incorporate that into their overall infrastructure, communications infrastructure?
Well, that industry has gone through the same type of convergence that phone systems have gone through with being converged with their IT systems since IP cameras have come into that space. So, when we all used to sit around and watch the news, they would show, maybe some video footage to try and catch a suspect, and it would be from a Walmart, and it was pretty worthless. But in today's world, with the advent of IP cameras and digital, the images are amazing, and all of that stuff typically resides either in the cloud or on someone's network. It is not they're not analog devices anymore. So the cost has come way down, just like it has with every other electronic product, and the quality has gotten way better. And all of that stuff is converged into the network space for most of our clients.
Yeah, super interesting addition, physical security for your clients, kind of branching out away from the communication space into that physical security aspect. Something very, very near and dear to any small business owner's heart who has a physical presence anywhere. Fantastic.
Well, and they typically, those cameras, they typically run off of a Wi-Fi network or a physical, voice or data cable, typically a Cat5 or a Cat6 cable. So, it is all in the same realm of the structured cabling in a network, the switches, the routers, all of that stuff is all
Yeah.
integrated together now.
Yeah, natural
So.
extension of what you're already doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hearing that it is your primary focus, but that it is a part of your full suite, your full offering, and that it is integrated into the rest of what you do. So for me, that sounds like a differentiator, which is why it's also just so interesting if that's not your primary focus, but isn't an ad that you're able to provide.
I mean, we do that. That's one of the things we will be focusing on even more in the future, but we also do things like overhead paging, which isn't typically considered a part of a phone system, but it absolutely is a part of a phone system. So we install speakers and ceilings and paging horns in big warehouses, and all of those need extensions on phone platforms. So, they're all different realms of hardware that all integrate into the same network. So there's all kinds of there's really not a product that relates to their network that from a hardware perspective that we won't get involved in. And there's not a hardware product that I don't try and put in the cloud somehow in some way, because that to me is the future. So
yeah, everything's moving that way. If not already, then it's on its way.
The benefit is that we are very much still within the digital transformation. It is not done. There's ripe with opportunity everywhere we look to help small businesses, users, whatever that might be, move to the cloud.
The parallels for me at different stages of my life. My first foray in the professional world of communications was with a cellular company in the late 80s, early 90s. And Brianna, you may not have even been around to remember this, but I had one of those curly Q antennas on the back of my car at 22 years old, and nobody had them. I mean, I thought I was something special. And it was a really slow to be adapted technology. It didn't function well at first. There were problems with it. 50% of your calls ended unexplained. They dropped. Every minute cost 50 cents. So I went from that world and watched it be accepted into this world of VoIP and cloud and how slow it was to take off, because every office that you walked into, we don't need that, and it doesn't work, and the quality stinks. But here we sit today, and everyone is going to cloud. It will be the technology of the future. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when for every single business out there. It is complete parallel to what I dealt with when I started my career.
Yeah, it's interesting because as we so first of all, we saw some research the other day that talks about that digital transformation and where are small businesses in that digital transformation, and the U.S. estimate was about 35% had gone to cloud communications for their communications needs in the small business realm. And when you take that and you go overseas, you go into Europe, you go into France, Germany, Italy, Spain, UK. There are different phases of that adoption, but and they're actually farther. They're not further along. We're further along. We, the U.S., are further along at 35%. So there's still lots of room to grow on the climb up the digital transformation curve for sure.
We still walk into businesses every day that are like, we don't need anything fancy. We just, all we need to do is be able to pick up our handset and make a call. But I'll tell you what, if they spent 1 week utilizing the functionality that they get with a newer cloud platform, or even a hybrid on-prem system, VoIP system, and the savings that are available, it would transform their business. They'll get there someday. It just takes some folks longer.
It's certainly one of the things that if you are a small business and you depend on those phone calls to ring your cash register, then the ability to have network connectivity that's got multiple different avenues. So you may have a primary internet service provider, you may have a 5G backup. That removing that phone system into the cloud not only allows you to go and do things from other locations, work from home, work from the coffee shop, work from the office, work from your mobile handset, but it also allows you that redundancy that those businesses that haven't yet made that jump are not gonna enjoy. So if something happens, water falls in from the ceiling and falls on your PBX, you're done until you can find another one.
There's so much about it, and the change in the mentality of business owners today as they see in their own interaction with their customer bases that their customers don't call them anymore. They want to email them. And the way we communicate with our customers and our prospects is completely different. You have to be able to communicate with them the way they want to be reached, and not, picking up the phone is great. And I still am a firm believer in picking up the phone. It will always be like the best mode of building relationships for me. But if I have somebody who's just too busy and they don't want to communicate that way, I have to be able, as a person who runs a business, I have to be able to communicate with my customers the way they need to be communicated with. And that's the tools that are so valuable about what we do today. And that's where, it's happening. It's happening slower. It's happening, because people that are my age we're coming around. It takes, I'm not the average person of my age. I grew up in this industry, but people who grew up in, let's say they have been doing automotive their whole life or plumbing their whole life, and they're not technology based, it takes them longer to see the impact of that and to grow into it. But it's happening every single day.
Yeah. That's it's the power of the messaging tools kind of coming into play there as well. You've got, I always think of it in terms of asynchronous communication, which is, text message, I'm collaborating, I can send a message and I can wait for a response for that. And same with the other party versus a synchronous communication where it's a conversation, it's a live conversation. And there is a generational preference between one and the other. And it's not all or nothing, right? It's not all one or all the other, but there is a tipping of the scale as you change from one generation to the next in terms of that preference of asynchronous communication or synchronous communications.
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the main things that we go through when we're talking with the prospect in a small business, and let's say they have like 20 employees, how many of these folks are going to need phones is one of the first questions we ask, because all the younger ones in the business generationally, they're the ones who don't want the phone. It's the people like me. They're like, yeah, I still need a phone. I don't feel comfortable without a phone. So, yeah, exactly. And as we keep going, that's going to change. I mean, that's one of the reasons we had to evolve our business, because we were hardware based and it's all software going forward,
Yeah. But to your point, though, all of this is an evolution that happens over time. There's a great story about the curly Q antenna and the bag phone. I don't know if it was a bag phone, but I had a bag phone
mine was installed.
See, even better. I had to borrow one from the company who only allowed you to have it for a certain amount of time. But that's definitely near and dear to my heart. I'm pretty sure that I may have one arm longer than the other one from carrying that bag phone around.
It was traumatic trying to sell those things to people when I was in the sales game in that industry. Oh my gosh, it was a tough sell. Holy cow.
Well, I can tell you, I felt very important because I was the only one that had the bag phone, and I felt very important having it.
I know. That was cool.
I heard you use the phrase hybrid VoIP. And we're talking a lot about folks that might be in non-tech industries who have yet to see the impact of cloud communications, or working with small medium businesses that don't feel like things are broken, so there's nothing to fix, right? Like don't fix what's not broken. But I'm hearing that there's maybe some kind of hybrid approach where a company can start moving, start to join the digital transformation, start moving to cloud without totally disrupting and totally getting rid of everything they're familiar with. Is that fair?
It is. I was more referring to, so when with telephone manufacturers, as they have made this transition into VoIP, they couldn't just completely just go in with a wrecking ball to the existing phone systems that sat there. So what they typically did was they came up with ways to make their existing system VoIP compatible. And so then you had digital and analog systems out there, analog and digital systems out there that had an IP component. So you could gradually make that transition on an on-premise system. Now, most of the people who have an old antiquated system, they're just completely making the jump at some point from what they're dealing with today into the world of the cloud space. And they're either doing either the cloud space or total VoIP. And they're either doing that with an on-premise system, getting less and less every day, or they're doing that with a full cloud solution, which is where our focus is, because it provides so much so many advantages to the small business from an ongoing maintenance perspective. It's an easy, typically a fairly easy sell over an on-premise system at this point. Large entities, it's a really difficult thing for them to give up their on-premise control of their large telephone systems and so forth. And plus, it's a very expensive solution for a large entity. But for the small to medium business, it's not really that big of a lift to get them to make that leap, especially if they're facing, reinvesting in another VoIP system. So
yeah, it's interesting point that there's a journey there. And you can kind of, if you're at step one in that journey, you can pick, let's say you have an on-premise PBX, that the next step in the journey is IP enabling that PBX. Now you've still got hard phones on desks, and that's still a comfort zone. The next step after that, maybe there's a cloud-based solution that replaces that PBX, but you can still have hard phones on the desk. You can then go to the next step and go, straight to a cloud-based solution that you're utilizing your computer as the interface. So but you can kind of choose your own adventure there, right? If you're wherever you are on that continuum, if you want to jump from 1 to 4, great. 1 to 2, 1 to 3, whatever.
And that's why a company like Mastor and my team brings so much to the table, because we've grown up through all of those different technologies. So we understand what the sweet spot is for every single one of them. And so every customer that we walk into has its own history and its own journey through that space. And we're able to make these decisions based on our experience through the maturation of the industry, right?
Yeah.
So you can tell when you're speaking to a client what is going to be too much of an uptick for them in terms of their communications, and you can slow roll them into new technology. And then you might walk into an older business that's just ready to make the leap, and you jump in head first and go for it. So it just depends, and that's why we're so good at what we do, because my entire team is seasoned at Mastor. So there's me with close to 30 years now in the telecom space, more than 30 years in the telecom space. Gosh, it's hard to say those words. And then I have my 2 sales reps who one of them totally grew up in the industry with me. And the other one was a contractor before, so he was very familiar with the electrical contracting space, and he's been with us for 15 years. So we're very seasoned and experienced, and we just bring so much to the table for every different type of customer, including the new, young, hip entrepreneur that's starting a business with himself and needs one extension that's not his cell phone, that his customers are going to call his personal cell phone for the rest of their lives. That's a huge space for us as well.
It's cool because of the breadth of products that you serve or that you provide, you get to know your clients really, really well. And so it's a great point you made, that you can, because you're getting to know them, you're getting to know their businesses, you're getting to know kind of where they are from a technology perspective on multiple different fronts. You can make a recommendation that's more unique to them based on where they should probably be not only from a technology perspective, but also culturally, because there's a change management aspect to this as well.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
one of the biggest, that is one of our biggest barriers or challenges with every new implementation that we do, is how do we get the team on board with it at this company?
Tell us a little bit more about your unique personal history with NUSO and how that really lends itself to Mastor serving your customers, but within and outside of your organization.
Okay. To try and make a really long story short, before I was at Mastor, I worked for NUSO. And before NUSO was NUSO, I worked for Sotel, which was the beginnings of the NUSO world, and a company that split in two. And before Sotel, I was with a company that was purchased by Sotel. So 26 straight years of full employment through mergers, acquisitions, and change, I ended up a channel account manager with NUSO. So to say that Mastor and NUSO are married in a unique way that doesn't exist with most partnerships out in the world would be an understatement. And the reason that we value our partnership with NUSO so much is because I have such confidence in that team, having worked for it, having seen the vision, having seen the nimbleness of the company, having seen their commitment to growth and change and the customer experience, the partnership experience. I came from that side of the house. It made me happy. I was a happy NUSO employee. And the only reason that I moved to Mastor, which as a channel account manager, Mastor was my customer when I was an associate of NUSO. You know, Mastor was selling the NUSO products, but they were a lot reliant on my expertise and me coming and moving so that I'm sitting with that team every day and managing that team and training that team. It took the Mastor expertise level in the cloud communications space and the NUSO platform in general to a whole new level and to a whole new place, and provided such a huge benefit to our customer base as we move them from, you know, a lot of these people, we were an interconnect company before VoIP even existed. A lot of these people still have old technology sitting on their desks, a lot of our customers, and they're fine with it until it breaks. And then they need somebody who can take them to the next, you know, available technology, and they have that so much, and we're so well invested in the cloud space. And so it's a humble brag, but we're as good as it gets when it comes to expertise in the provider that you're selling. There's a lot of interconnect companies out there that are representing a platform, and they're really dependent on selling a deal and turning it over to that provider to manage it. With us, you get the best of both worlds. You get the NUSO support, which is second to none in the industry, and I will shout that from the highest mountaintop. And you get our support. So the customer has so much offered to them in terms of help and assistance and responsiveness that you don't get if you go to, you know, large companies, successful companies like RingCentral. You know, there's a whole bunch of other platforms out there, good companies in their own right. But if you need support, that's where the whole equation breaks down. You know, the pricing, there's 1,000 companies out there. We're all priced basically this, you know, in the same space. Where the differentiator is our marriage to the NUSO platform and their products is unique in the industry, and our expertise about the NUSO platform and its products is unique in the industry, and that offers something special to our customers, especially if they're just making the leap.
Yeah, it's really it is definitely a very unique and deep and rich partnership that's been going on for years and years. And I, you know, my hope is that it continues to be a differentiator for you and for your customers, that we can together, you know, combine to continue to serve them well. So thank you very much for all the compliments on the service as well.
I 100% sincerity in everything I say, and it's the most important business relationship that we have, for sure.
I mean, I know you're 100% sincere because I've seen the other side of that. Of that sincerity, you've told me the raw truth a few times as well.
Also sincere, I'm sure.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect. That's fair enough.
Nobody's
Fair
perfect.
enough. But no, I really appreciate the depth of the relationship and really truly how rich it is.
What else differentiates Mastor from your competition?
We touched just a little bit on the support aspect. So if the transaction that we have with our customers was selling a cloud communications platform, and let's say we were aligned with a Ring Central, for instance, and one of the large cable companies here in town is aligned with Ring Central to sell their cloud platform. What breaks down about that transaction for a lot of customers that choose that experience is once it's installed, the support. You may get when you're bringing on a customer, every company is like all about, hey, tell me a little bit about your users and how are we going to set this all up. But the second you have to change something and they've walked away from that initial turn up, that's where the challenges start. And what we bring to the table is our support never stops. It's included in what you're paying on a monthly basis. You can call us, you can email us, you can call NUSO, you can email NUSO. Layers of support that don't exist with other larger scale platforms that are out there. Some of them, the experience is you go online and it says, hey, start your free trial, and you put in some details and they ship you a couple phones and you have to figure out how to make everything work. We're here to walk you through that experience, to get it set up, to come back if it's not set up the right way. We can do all kinds of things remotely to help you change things. We do that on a daily basis. So the support experience is such a huge differentiating factor for people who are considering, especially if they have old technology and this is a big leap for them. You really need to delve into it with a company like Mastor, and we'd love to help. So
yeah, it's particularly important in the small business arena because you've got somebody that's trying to run a business and they're trying to, install HVAC systems, or they're trying to, do coaching, or they're trying to whatever it is do their psychology work, whatever it is that their small business is built around. Their purpose in life is not to deal with their communication system. They need a partner like you that's going to appreciate what they need, make the right recommendation with a partner, and then appreciate too that if they need help, again, back to what we were saying before, that if the phone's not ringing, they're not ringing the cash register, and that means they're not paying their employees. That means they're not paying the mortgage next month. So that quick presence, I guess I would say, of that support and the quick reaction of that support is critical. It gets more critical the smaller the business you get.
It's just so our sales approach, our marketing, and our appointments with customers and our fact-finding mission that we're on prior to proposing a solution, we are so consultative in our approach, as opposed to being, on the other end of a website where we get an order from a customer and they have no idea really what they have ordered, and so we have vetted all of that stuff prior to there ever being an order, because we've had conversations with them and we know the questions to ask. They have no idea. They're not experts on telecom. So if something is like, hey, could we eliminate our front desk position? We have ways to consult with them about how they can utilize an auto attendant to maybe help them save money with that, maybe take the money that they're investing in a receptionist because they have old technology. Now you're not going to have old technology. And how can I redeploy that money and maybe dedicate it to a new salesperson or a new support person that's really going to help me in my go-to-market, right?
Drive the
So
business.
these are the types of things that we see every day. That these are the conversations we're having with our customers that you're not going to get ordering a phone system from a website or calling up an 800 number and ordering telephone service from, a guy that's sitting in Portland, Oregon. It's just, it is such a different experience and on such a different level in terms of the benefits it brings to the customer who doesn't want to be a phone expert and they don't want to be an IT expert.
Yeah.
They want us to work with their IT department or be their IT department. So
it's been a few years that this is one of the questions we all ask in any kind of formal or informal conversation, but how has the pandemic impacted your business and therefore, or as a result of, or separately, your customer's business? And have you seen that change be temporary or permanent?
boy, it was an experience, but I think I probably worked harder and longer hours than I ever have in my career in March of 2020 when the world shut down. And what I spent my time doing was taking all of the people who had kind of adopted our cloud technology as a solution, but they still had phones on their desk and they didn't want to use a mobile app and they didn't need all the fancy soft phones and all that. And I spent every waking hour for weeks getting our existing customers mobile apps and desktop apps so they could work from home efficiently. To say it was a boon for our industry is kind of feels heartless, but what it did do was that trajectory we were on of acceptance of cloud technology was maybe going like this, and the second the pandemic hit, it was like this. And so that's what it did for our business. It sped up that timeline of acceptance of cloud technology and VoIP technology because we had no choice. We could no longer say, oh, I don't need anything fancy. Everybody needed something fancy and they needed it right now. So it was a ton of fun. The pandemic was not, but getting these people on board and having the light bulbs go off and having them see how, first of all, we were able to prove how nimble we were so quickly, having the proof of concept just come inherently because it had to, right? And so is it permanent? Absolutely, it's permanent, because even if those people are bringing their employees back to the office, they're still using the technology that they were forced to learn when they had to work at home. Yeah. So people are going back to the office. They're not touching their phones if they didn't have one at home. They're using their soft phone at the office. They're using their mobile app, totally permanent. And, really, I think good. The one good thing that came out of the pandemic is people's communications are much more efficient now. It's a horrible lesson we had to go through to get there, but yes, is it permanent? Yes. And it was a crazy, crazy time for our industry. That's for sure.
Yeah. And businesses are left with that optionality too. We could spend an hour alone talking about remote versus hybrid versus in person, and every business has to decide, what configuration is best for it. But that decision is not a static decision, and so having technologies across the breadth of your organization that will allow you to flex into whatever hybrid, on-premise, remote, or combination thereof, kind of environment is critical. That optionality is something that I think we've now all achieved, or we're on the way to achieving.
I mean, it used to be far-fetched to say I could sit in a Panera Bread and work for 5 hours, making phone calls, receiving phone calls, doing emails because I needed internet access and I could do it from there. That used to be a far-fetched thing. That's the norm now. I can work wherever I am. That may or may not be a positive in some cases. Like when I'm on vacation, I can work, and usually do. But for the most part, everyone has now accepted and has in some way been impacted by these technologies that may have been fighting them prior to the pandemic. And I think for the most part, for the good.
Going back to NUSO and Mastor's relationship, what's a success story that we've had together that comes to mind?
I'll give this story as an idea of the scale of things we can do, because I talked briefly about the young entrepreneur starting out in the business and being, wanting to separate his professional from his personal life on his cell phone, and how cloud technology can help that through a mobile app. The other end of the scale is a big customer, right? And the largest one that we deal with on a daily basis, and it kind of gives you the idea of the scale of the services we can provide, is a community college based in Union, Missouri, called East Central College. And they became a NUSO customer back in the days when I worked for NUSO, and I actually brought them on board as a NUSO customer. They have about 500 lines of service. They have phones in every single one of their classrooms. All of their professors and their professional staff have phones. They have a fairly extensive auto attendance system. And they have 3 different campuses that are all tied together, right? So they have a campus in Rolla. They have a location that's their main hub in Union, and then across the street in Union, they have a whole third entity that exists, and there's 2 Rolla locations. So I would say they've been with us since 2014, which is pretty early adoption of cloud technology for an entity of that size. There were not a lot of entities of that size that were adapting to cloud solutions back in the day. We've now just gone into our 3rd contract with them, and the benefits that they have derived from our affiliation with NUSO and directly from NUSO over those years keep them with us. I would say they've been more important to my business than any other single entity that I have, just because of the legitimacy that it brings to the table. We can handle a job of really any size and have great relationships and maintain and good maintenance relationships with customers of all sizes.
The duration of that engagement too really speaks to the power of the relationships that you build as well. It's hats off to you for that. That's a
that's
large
one of the
organization
things
to keep happy.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
it is. And I'm not going to say we never have had our challenges, but NUSO makes it easy to manage through the challenges that we have had. Whether it be, a circuit got cut at one of their locations, and all of a sudden we're scrambling to make sure they could still make and receive phone calls. Because back in the day, they weren't using mobile apps. They are now. They went from phones on desk to now every user is actual user, not classrooms, but every person that is a user is now fully adapted the technology that's available to them. So it's been an evolution. But that's that's the beauty of the reason we are aligned with the NUSO platform, just because it makes it really easy for us to help our customers on a daily basis when trouble does arise. And it's going to arise no matter who you're with. And, nothing is flawless in the IT and communication space.
It's one of the universal truths, unfortunately, is that technology does break, and it depends. You want to have the right partners in place so that when it happens, and I don't say if it happens, when it happens, you've got the right partners in place. One of the things that I'm most proud of at NUSO is one of the products that we have actually helps to eliminate those kinds of outages. We have a product called NUSO Flex. I know that you're very familiar with. That is basically the only in the U.S. and I think even overseas is one of the only inbound disaster recovery solutions that within, I think it's 140 seconds, we can detect an issue and then completely switch from one provider to the next behind the scenes in order to keep the phones ringing and keep the cash register ringing for customers. It's so that redundancy is incredibly important, especially in this kind of environment.
Disaster recovery is a huge thing, especially as what seems like more flooding, more tornadoes, more hurricanes, more fires, more disasters in general. I mean, you just have to be nimble and ready and have a plan to keep your business up and functioning. And the technologies of today certainly make that happen. And having a partner and a platform that is nimble is, the key to those disasters when they do happen.
So what's next for Mastor?
We started about a year ago. One of the inherent problems with the company, and really the reason why I am there, is the company kind of existed for the first 29 years. And there wasn't a ton of strategic vision. And because of my background and my familiarity with new technology, we were kind of living in the world of in our technology in the telecom space. We were kind of dinosaurs when I came over, trying to get over that hump. So one of the things that we've done in the last 3 years, Mastor, is really tried to increase our brand recognition in the St. Louis marketplace through radio advertising and search engine optimization projects from a marketing perspective, and joining chambers and getting our name out there and doing some billboards and social media blitzes and so forth. And that has spurred a ton of growth for us. And so the future for us is mastering what we do, our core products, and then adding in little enhancements that we can offer to our customers, like the connectivity, like being able to provide them with a full-scale solution like IT services. That's probably where I go next. We dabble in IT services right now, and we do that through another partnership that we have with a great provider here in St. Louis that has mastered the IT services game. But making that as big of a part of our product portfolio as the cloud communication piece of it is probably where I'd like to take the company next. And that's a heavy lift, right? And it's not something that can happen overnight. And we're kind of in the transitional phase of doing that. But I kind of want to take, I would consider ourselves an MSP right now, but I want to be a full-fledged MSP when it comes to IT services. So we're playing in the Microsoft Teams space, and we're playing in the network design space and ongoing maintenance of our customers' networks, instead of dabbling in it and bringing in a partner to help provide those things, which works great for the small customer, and we have great relationships with these folks, but I'd like it to be all Mastor. So that's kind of my vision for the future of our company.
Well, we're excited to help you along in that journey. As you mentioned some things that are near and dear to our hearts as we move forward, Microsoft Teams and the integration with NUSO services. We've got a couple of different ways to do that. Zoom and Zoom Contact Center are also on that list, and we're working on some other things that I can't say just yet here, but some other major platform connectivity as well. As you look to expand your services, we hopefully can be a part of helping you grow in those directions as well.
Yep, I look forward to it. That's one of the reasons I'm in this industry. It's never the same from day to day. I mean, it is the most fluid, ever-changing profession you can probably have. And it keeps me fresh. It keeps me excited about what I do every day, and learning all the time. And, it makes it a joy to come to work every single day.
I think we've reached the end of our time. So I just want to say thank you to you both. Really appreciate your insight and for taking the time to sit down and chat today. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Ryan.
Fun.
Yeah,
thanks for having me. Thanks for
Tina.
doing this. I appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, Tina.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thanks, guys.